Hello, everyone, and welcome back to SNN Primetime News. I'm Sophie James, and here the top story today. Musk is giving some U.S. voters $1 million. Is it legal? Questions have been raised about the legality of cash incentives offered by tech billionaire Elon Musk to swing state voters who sign his petition before the U.S. election on the 5th of November. The petition was created by Mr. Musk's campaign group America PAC, which was set up to support Donald Trump in the presidential contest. Voters in Pennsylvania are being offered cash sums for simply signing the petition, and one random swing state signatory a day is being given $1 million prize. But legal experts have suggested that it may break American law to offer money for an act requiring someone to be signed up as a voter. BBC News has contacted Mr. Musk's team and America PAC for comment. What is Musk offering? The petition created by America PAC encourages voters in 6 swing states, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and North Carolina, to sign a petition in favor of free speech and the right to bear arms. Those who refer another voter who signs up are promised a sum of $47.36 each. Higher sums of $100 for signing or referring are offered in Pennsylvania, the battleground state that both the Trump and Harris campaigns believe could potentially decide the race's eventual victor. America PAC says those who sign the petition are signaling their support for the First and Second Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. Each day until polling day on the 5th of November, a $1 million prize will be randomly awarded to any signatory in one of the 7 swing states. The first lottery-style jumbo check was handed out to a surprised attendee at a town hall event in Pennsylvania on the 19th of October. Is it legal? I believe Elon Musk's offer is likely illegal, said Paul Schiff Berman, the Walter S. Cox Professor of Law at the George Washington University. He pointed to the U.S. Code of Electoral Law, which states that anyone who pays or offers to pay or accepts payment either for registration to vote or for voting faces a potential $10,000 fine or a 5-year prison sentence. His offer is only open to registered voters, so I think his offer runs afoul of this provision, Mr. Berman told the BBC. The Justice Department declined to comment. The Federal Election Commission, FEC, has been approached for comment. The strategy may be covered by a loophole because no one is being directly paid to register or vote, a former chairman of the FEC suggested. Brad Smith told the New York Times the giveaway was something of a gray area, but not that close to the line. He's not paying them to register to vote, he's paying them to sign a petition, and he wants only people who are registered to vote to sign the petition. So I think he comes out okay here, he said. But an election law professor at Northwestern University told the Associated Press that the context was important. It's not quite the same as paying someone to vote, but you're getting close enough to polling day that we worry about its legality, Michael Kang said. Adav Nodi of the Nonpartisan Campaign Legal Center said Mr. Musk's scheme violates federal law and is subject to civil or criminal enforcement by the Department of Justice. It is illegal to give out money on the condition that recipients register as voters, Mr. Nodi told the BBC. What have Democrats said? Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, a Democrat, described the move as deeply concerning and called for law enforcement agencies to investigate. In response, Mr. Musk said it was concerning that he would say such a thing. Billionaire investor Mark Cuban, who has campaigned in recent weeks for Kamala Harris, said the offer was both innovative and desperate. You only do that because you think you have to, but using a sweepstake is not a bad idea. Whether or not it will work is another whole thing. It could just as easily backfire, he told CNBC. What else has Musk done? The world's richest man had an uneven relationship with Trump when Trump was president, but Mr. Musk has increasingly voiced his displeasure with Democrats in recent years. Ahead of the 2022 midterm elections, he announced that he had left the party and encouraged his followers to vote Republican. This year, he has involved himself in American politics like never before, making donations and supportive social media posts on behalf of several Republicans. In comments last week, he described much of the U.S.-Mexico border as tantamount to the film World War Z. Mr. Musk launched America PAC in July with the aim of supporting Trump's 2024 campaign for president. He has so far donated at least $75 million to the group. America PAC's website says it wants secure borders, safe cities, free speech, sensible spending, a fair justice system, and self-protection. Trump said on Sunday that he had not followed Mr. Musk's giveaway, but described him as a friend. In recent weeks, Mr. Musk has appeared on the campaign trail for the first time, first by Trump's side, and more recently in town hall appearances by himself. TikTok owner sacks intern for sabotaging AI project. TikTok owner ByteDance says it has sacked an intern for maliciously interfering with the training of one of its artificial intelligence AI models. But the firm rejected claims about the extent of the damage caused by the unnamed individual, saying they contain some exaggerations and inaccuracies. It comes after reports about the incident spread over the weekend on social media. The Chinese technology giant's Dubao ChatGPT-like generative AI model is the country's most popular AI chatbot. The individual was an intern with the advertising technology team and has no experience with the AI lab, ByteDance said in a statement. Their social media profile and some media reports contain inaccuracies. Its commercial online operations, including its large language AI models, were unaffected by the intern's actions, the company added. ByteDance also denied reports that the incident caused more than $10 million, $7.7 million, of damage by disrupting an AI training system made up of thousands of powerful graphics processing units, GPU. As well as firing the person in August, ByteDance said it had informed the intern's university and industry bodies about the incident. ByteDance operates some of the world's most popular social media apps, including TikTok and its Chinese equivalent Douyin. It is widely seen as a leader when it comes to algorithm development due to how appealing its apps are to users. Like many of its peers in China and around the world, the social media giant is investing heavily in AI. It uses the technology to power its Dubao chatbot, as well as many other applications, including a text-to-video tool called Jimeng.
I'm Douglas Omar with your culture news. Animal rights protesters disrupt Pharrell premiere. The premiere of a new film about Pharrell Williams was briefly disrupted by animal rights protesters at the London Film Festival on Sunday. A screening of Piece by Piece, a biopic of the musician told using Lego, closed the festival, but was delayed after campaigners shouted and hung banners over the balcony in the Royal Festival Hall. They shouted, "Stop the torture, stop the pain," in reference to the use of animal skins and fur by fashion house Louis Vuitton, where Williams serves as men's creative director. The singer and producer, who was on stage at the time, remained calm and applauded the activists, telling them, "God bless you." Addressing the rest of the audience as the protesters were being removed, he added, "The changes they seek don't happen overnight. It takes a lot of planning, and we are working on those things. But they want to be heard, so we heard them." Williams has been creative director of the Louis Vuitton men's collection since February 2023. BBC News has asked Louis Vuitton for comment. This is the second major screening of the singer's biopic to be disrupted, after animal rights groups also targeted the movie's premiere at the Toronto Film Festival last month. After the London screening, animal rights group People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, claimed responsibility. They said, "We are calling him out for using wild animal skins and fur in his Louis Vuitton designs. It's time for him to stop supporting cruelty." At the previous screening in Toronto, a woman ran on stage and shouted, "Pharrell, stop supporting killing animals for fashion." The singer replied, "You know what? You're right. God bless you. It's okay. Everybody give her a round of applause, please." Once she was removed, Williams told the audience, "You know, Rome wasn't made in a day. And sometimes when you have plans to change things and situations, you have to get in a position of power and influence where you can change people's minds and help progression." Williams is known for hits such as Happy and for being one half of production duo The Neptunes, who worked on some of the biggest hits of the last 2 decades. Piece by Piece, directed by Morgan Neville, uses Lego bricks to depict Williams's early life in Virginia through to his rise to fame. The film, released in the UK next month, has received generally positive reviews from critics, with many praising the inventive take on the traditional biopic. Liam Payne's death prompts music industry soul-searching. The death of former One Direction star Liam Payne has sparked a debate about the duty of care in the music industry, particularly for young people. In one of the most powerful tributes to the singer, who died at the age of 31 after falling from a hotel in Argentina last week, TV personality and former X Factor judge Sharon Osbourne said, "We all let you down." Osbourne said Payne was just a kid when he entered one of the toughest industries in the world, and asked, "Who was in your corner? Where was this industry when you needed them?" More than 25,000 people have now signed a petition saying the entertainment industry needs to be held accountable and be responsible to the welfare of their artists. Osbourne herself wasn't a judge when Payne found fame on the show. He first auditioned at the age of 14 in 2008 before returning 2 years later and becoming part of One Direction. The rest is history. While the boy band went on to achieve phenomenal success across the globe, Payne himself acknowledged that it came at a cost. He admitted he used alcohol to cope with the level of fame because there was no other way to get your head around what was going on. U.S. star Bruce Springsteen is among those who have spoken in recent days about the negative impact of the pressures of fame. He told the Daily Telegraph that young people don't have the inner facility or the inner self yet to be able to protect themselves from a lot of the things that come with success and fame. So they get lost in a lot of the difficult and often pain-inducing things, whether it's drugs or alcohol, to take some of that pressure off, he said. I understand this very well from my own experience, as I have done my own wrestling with different things. Robbie Williams also acknowledged that he struggled with his own demons when he was 31. By the grace of God and or dumb luck, I'm still here, he said. The former Take That star called for more kindness and empathy from the public towards famous figures who might be going through difficulties. Even famous strangers need your compassion, he wrote. Could the music industry do more to help fledgling artists? And are things now changing? Robbie Williams' frequent collaborator, songwriter Guy Chambers, told The Observer the industry should hold back from working with performers who are under 18. I do think putting a 16-year-old in an adult world like that is potentially really damaging. Robbie experienced that, certainly, he said. Chambers added, I know in Robbie's case, with Take That, there wasn't any proper protection set up to look after what were teenage boys. That was a long time ago, but I don't see much sign of change. JLS star Aritze Williams, who also found fame on The X Factor, told BBC Breakfast there isn't enough duty of care. It's a tough game, and you have to have a very thick skin, he said. When you haven't lived life, to go through trials and tribulations whilst being under the spotlight is a very difficult thing. And who is there to support? Aritze Williams said he had been through his own problems since finding boy band fame. You're out there alone in this crazy world where there are a lot of vultures. It's tough to navigate. And Eogan Quigg, who appeared on The X Factor with Payne in 2008, told 5 Live, there needs to be more support because it's a fickle business, especially now with social media. One Direction came third in The X Factor in 2010, behind winner Matt Cardle and runner-up Rebecca Ferguson, who shared her devastation at Payne's death. She has previously said she suffered exploitation and bullying in the music industry. I've spoken for years about the exploitation and profiteering of young stars and the effects. Many of us are still living with the aftermath and the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, she wrote on social media. Ferguson recalled getting a taxi with Payne to film The X Factor after meeting him at a train station. I can't help but think of that boy who was hopeful and looking forward to his bright future ahead. If he hadn't jumped on that train and jumped in that taxi, I believe he would be alive today. And Katie Weissel, who also appeared on The X Factor in 2010, has long campaigned for better support for those who appear on TV. She spoke to the BBC last year about the obscene amount of pressure she felt under as a contestant on the show. In response, a spokesperson for X Factor said robust measures were in place to support those involved in the show. Speaking to BBC Radio 5 Live on Friday, she said young musicians were naive about entering into a reality television show. It wasn't transparent what we were getting ourselves into. No one knows what to expect. Waisel called the music industry very manipulative, coercive, and deconstructive, saying it sucks the soul out of people. Considerable duty of care. Matt Thomas, who co-founded the charity Music Support in 2016 after 2 decades as a record label executive and artist manager, said he had seen massive changes in recent years. I actually think the music industry has got so much better and has made so much progress, he told BBC News. What I've noticed in the last 10 years is the awareness that it's about human beings rather than commodities. But we've still got a long way to go. More support is now out there, but not everybody knows where to find it, he said. One of the biggest issues is lack of awareness of the help that's available, and lack of clear signposting and official recognized pathways. He also backed Chambers' suggestion that under-18s should be given much more protection. There's a massive difference between duty of care to artists and duty of care to children. Duty of care to children should be dealt with completely separately, he said. Talent manager Jonathan Shalit also said things had changed since 2010. Fortunately, a lot of lessons have been learned. The duty of care back then wasn't what it could have been on reality shows in general. Now the duty of care is considerable. I think it's very important to separate the emotions and the terribleness of what's happened to Liam. That is many years after he left One Direction. On the flip side, some members of One Direction have gone on to have great success and great enjoyment in the lives. It's not black and white. He acknowledged that fame is not what it seems to be. You've got 1 million friends, but you've got no friends. I always say artists are the most sensitive people in a very hard business. The BPI, the trade body representing record labels, said there's now so much more focus on the well-being of artists and understanding of the pressures they face. Labels take an active role in their artists' welfare, and there is a range of support from managers as well as organizations like Music Support and Help Musicians, which offer a breadth of pastoral support, a BPI spokesman told BBC News. The music community is continually thinking what further care can be provided. The BPI is committed to supporting its members and the wider industry in ensuring that artist well-being remains a priority. Music management consultant Marcus Anthony told 5 Live on Sunday, "The music industry is aware that these things need to be addressed, and big music events and conventions hold seminars and discussions about artist welfare, and things are getting better. But some managers and labels will always prioritize the pound over the artist."
Preeclampsia, the deadly mystery scientists can't solve. The condition causes more than 70,000 maternal deaths every year, but its causes continue to elude scientists. After a glittering track and field career, which saw her rack up 7 Olympic gold medals and 14 World Championship golds, Allyson Felix assumed that pregnancy would be as smooth as her trademark running style. "All my life, I've taken care of my body. My body has been my tool, and it has never really failed me," says Felix. "I've trained and I've put demands on my body, and it's always performed. So, I was thinking of having, like, a beautiful natural birth. I'd gone to hypnobirthing and all these things," she says. But when Felix attended a routine checkup at 32 weeks, she was shocked to be told that she had severe preeclampsia, a pregnancy complication that causes dangerously high blood pressure levels and organ damage, and that she required immediate hospitalization. The following day, doctors performed an emergency C-section, and her daughter Cameron was born 2 months early, subsequently spending the first month of her life in the neonatal intensive care unit. Until then, there had been few signs that anything was amiss for Felix and her unborn baby, other than some swelling in her feet. "I wasn't too alarmed by that, but I found out I was spilling protein and all these things about my blood pressure. It was terrifying, but our family got to go home," she says. While Cameron is now a healthy 5-year-old,
Felix is all too keenly aware of similar stories which have resulted in a far more tragic ending. In April 2023, her longtime teammate Tori Bowie, a former world 100-meter champion and relay gold medalist at the Rio 2016 Olympics, died in childbirth from complications linked to preeclampsia. She was just 32. We were on numerous relay teams together. We competed against each other, with each other, and that was extremely shocking, says Felix. Someone that I've spent so much time with, it was really devastating. Unraveling a deadly enigma. Worldwide, preeclampsia is thought to be responsible for more than 70,000 maternal deaths and 500,000 fetal deaths every year, with many fatalities resulting from stroke or prolonged fitting as a result of the elevated blood pressure. It can occur without warning at any time during pregnancy, with some women developing early-onset preeclampsia before 34 weeks, and others experiencing late-onset forms of the condition. Women can even suffer from postpartum preeclampsia in the 6 weeks after giving birth. Scientists have uncovered a few clues as to why this happens. Excessive inflammation, beginning in the uterus, disrupts the delicate communication patterns taking place between the mother's body and the fetus. In particular, it impacts the reshaping of blood vessels within the uterus to form the placenta, the organ created to provide the fetus with the nutrients and oxygen it needs. Because the flow of blood through the placenta is abnormal, it ultimately interferes with how the mother's body controls blood pressure, gradually leading to hypertension and ultimately preeclampsia. When a woman becomes pregnant, her heart's got to pump extra for the baby and the placenta, says Ian Wilkinson, clinical pharmacologist and professor of therapeutics at the University of Cambridge, who is leading a UK-based population study of preeclampsia called Poppy. The amount of blood she's pumping each minute goes up 1.5 to 2 times in normal pregnancy. Women with existing autoimmune disorders, those aged over 40, and women with a larger body mass index are known to be at greater risk, perhaps because they are unable to adapt as well to the physical toll that pregnancy places on a woman's body. But there are still many mysteries about why certain women develop preeclampsia, often without warning, and why others do not. In particular, rates are as much as 60% higher in black women, who are also more likely to experience severe forms of the condition. Some researchers believe that the latter could be linked to poorer access to good nutrition and health insurance. There's structural racism, where certain patients and communities don't have the same access to early interventions, detection screening, primarily because of where they get their healthcare, says Garima Sharma, Director of Cardio-Obstetrics and Cardiovascular Women's Health at the healthcare company Innova Health System in Fairfax, Virginia. At the same time, Sharma says that this does not explain exactly why the condition begins in the first place. While doctors still rely heavily on clinical risk factors such as age, ethnicity, and medical history to assess who might develop preeclampsia, the accuracy of predictions based on these factors is notoriously poor. The sensitivity of clinical risk factors on their own is low, says Sharma. But with newer and improved diagnostics beginning to emerge, scientists may soon be able to shed more light on who is at risk and why. Predicting preeclampsia. While specialists treating other diseases such as cancer or chronic infections can often take a biopsy of a patient's internal tissues for further analysis, there is no easy way of studying the changes taking place in a pregnant woman's uterus. We can't just routinely go in and collect a sample of placenta from a pregnant woman, because that can really increase the risk of miscarriage, says Lana McClements, Associate Professor at the University of Technology, Sydney. And animals actually don't develop preeclampsia, so rodent models, for example, are very difficult to create. Instead, researchers have had to try and pick up abnormal levels of certain molecules in the blood as a way of detecting that something might be going wrong. In particular, studies have shown that in women with high levels of inflammation in the uterus, placental cells respond to the impaired blood supply by releasing a protein known as soluble FMS-like tyrosine kinase 1, SFEL1. Once in the bloodstream, excess levels of this protein have a toxic impact, increasing the sensitivity of the fragile barrier between the mother and fetus to inflammation. That protein accumulates to about 100 times normal levels in patients who are developing preeclampsia, says Craig Mello, a biologist at the University of Massachusetts Medical School, who was a co-recipient of the 2006 Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine. So it can be used as a diagnostic prior to the dangers of organ failure that you can get with preeclampsia. Last year, the life science and clinical research company Thermo Fisher Scientific received approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, regulator for a new diagnostic for preeclampsia. The process helps to fast-track the development of medical technologies that treat or diagnose serious conditions. In this case, the diagnostic tool involves looking for high SFLT1 levels in comparison to low levels of another protein, placental growth factor, which represents normal placental development. Clinically, the test will be used to quickly predict whether a pregnant woman hospitalized with signs of hypertension will develop severe preeclampsia within the next 2 weeks. Its efficacy was provisionally demonstrated in a 2022 study examining more than 700 pregnant women across 18 different hospitals, in which patients who tested positive were able to receive enhanced surveillance and accelerated care before their symptoms could worsen. While it's thought that the new diagnostic technique will save lives, Cindy Anderson, professor of maternal infant health at The Ohio State University College of Nursing, feels that there remains a need for more advanced diagnostics which can detect warning signs of preeclampsia at a much earlier stage in pregnancy. If the tentative hints of preeclampsia could be identified at a point where the placenta is not fully developed, and it might still be possible to prevent the condition. After 9 weeks, the placenta has developed, says Anderson. So can we see these signals earlier, and could we then intervene with a treatment to either halt it or even cure it? To try and enable this, a group of scientists are turning to a new technology, one which has evolved at a rapid pace within the last few years. Placenta on a chip. In a lab in Sydney, McClements and her team are painstakingly assembling layers of living placental cells connected with supporting gels to create natural tissue-like structures. Their idea is to model some of the processes which might take place in the earliest stages of preeclampsia outside of the human body, something which has never been done before. The team have affectionately dubbed the technology placenta on a chip. We've been trying to develop these models that can mimic what's happening in the human placenta in preeclampsia conditions, says McClements. For example, we've used trophoblasts, the layers of cells which direct the formation of the placenta from the first trimester. We're trying to understand what's happening to them under the conditions of inflammation, oxidative stress, lack of oxygen, and restricted blood vessel development, which precede preeclampsia early in pregnancy, she says. According to McClements, the hope is that one day this research could yield new biomarkers which could form the basis of future blood tests for newly pregnant mothers. But having a more realistic model of preeclampsia could also make it easier for researchers to test potential therapies, ones which might actually alter the course of the disease. 2 out of 3 women who have gone through preeclampsia in pregnancy will die prematurely from heart attacks and cardiovascular disease, says McClements. So there's a real need to find new treatments to prevent both pregnancy and post-pregnancy disease. To date, the only recommended therapy for pregnant women deemed to be at high risk of preeclampsia is low-dose aspirin from 12 weeks until birth. Studies have shown that an estimated 60% of women who begin aspirin therapy before week 16 do not develop any symptoms of preeclampsia. But this still leaves 40% of patients who remain vulnerable, along with many who do not receive it at all because their doctors did not suspect them to be vulnerable to preeclampsia. There are many who don't get it, and it's not even discussed with them, says Andrew Shannon, professor of obstetrics at King's College London. McClements explains that drug repurposing, the process of finding new uses for existing or abandoned medications, which are known to be safe for pregnant women, has great potential for improving preeclampsia care, a process which could be accelerated by testing such medicines on bioprinted placental cells. Proton pump inhibitors, drugs widely used to treat indigestion, heartburn, or stomach ulcers, are thought to be possibly capable of reversing some of the damaging inflammatory processes which drive the initial stages of preeclampsia. Researchers have also suggested that eculizumab, a monoclonal antibody used to treat a form of blood disease, may be able to reduce the risk of preeclampsia development if administered at the beginning of pregnancy. We're currently honing in on metformin, a diabetes drug which is emerging as a potential treatment, says McClements. There's a fascinating study which showed that metformin can actually delay delivery of the baby in early severe preeclampsia, so it can potentially prevent preterm birth. Another approach involves attempting to halt the condition in its tracks by preventing the production of SNN in the placenta. Last year, the FDA cleared a new investigational drug called CBP-4888, which has been developed by a Massachusetts-based company called Comanche Biopharma for testing in clinical trials. The drug is known as a small interfering RNA, siRNA, short pieces of genetic code which can be precisely directed to various parts of the body where they can regulate gene expression and cellular function to halt production of a particular protein, in this case SNN. One of the remarkable things about these molecules is their longevity, says Mello, who is working as a scientific advisor to Comanche Biopharma. A single dose can last for periods of 6 months to a year, so we would expect one dose to be sufficient. So far, the company has completed testing the safety of the drug in female volunteers of childbearing age. As a next step, they are aiming to test it in a further trial of approximately 50 pregnant women with preeclampsia, potentially followed by wider studies in the US and possibly even the UK, Australia, Germany, Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa. Women of colour have a disproportionate burden of preeclampsia, says Alison August, Chief Medical Officer of the biopharmaceutical company Comanche Biopharma. So, when we do our studies in the US, we're going to go to centers in the south side of Chicago, Alabama, St. Louis, places where we know that the population has a disproportionate burden of preeclampsia, because that's a subset of the population that has extreme need. While McClements is encouraged by some of the advances which have been made, she hopes that more investment will be directed towards preeclampsia research in future, given the substantial and often under-recognized impact it has on the population. If you compare how much funding goes into cancer, women's health is just 1 to 2% of that, says McClements. But ultimately, we all come from pregnancy. Women are half of the population, but also mothers to the other half. And we know that being born to a mother who has had preeclampsia has an impact on the long-term health of babies, so there's a need to find solutions.
Audio Jungle.
Sources: Nike reaches a 12-year extension with NBA, WNBA. Nike has reached a 12-year contract extension agreement with the NBA and WNBA to continue to be the official global outfitter for the professional basketball leagues, sources told ESPN on Monday. The pact will result in Nike, which began designing and manufacturing the official NBA, WNBA, and G League uniforms and apparel in 2017, continuing the partnership through 2 decades. The agreement also includes a marketing and content partnership, which 3-time WNBA MVP A'ja Wilson cited as perhaps the biggest benefit of her league's association with Nike since she became a pro in 2018. Back when I was a rookie not that long ago, there wasn't a whole lot of ways to really tell your story, Wilson told ESPN in a phone interview Monday. It wasn't like people wanted to know A'ja outside the uniform because they never saw it before. They never saw it in a WNBA player before, as much as we see it now. I think that comes from Nike kind of taking that chance and being like, no, we want to tell these ladies' stories. We want to get them out there to show that it's deeper than just a uniform. Sal LaRocca, the NBA's president of global partnerships, told ESPN that the league did not have any second thoughts about continuing the business relationship. Seeing Nike as a mutual investor in the sport of basketball, it was obvious to us that the deal was working as good as it could be from the NBA's perspective, LaRocca told ESPN. Nike's investment in the NBA, the WNBA, the G League, grassroots basketball, boys and girls elite-level basketball is critical, we think, to our long-term goals to continue to grow the sport of basketball on a global basis. The extension includes a pledge from both the leagues and the sports lifestyle company to facilitate youth basketball leagues, including consideration being paid to coaching, training, and player development. Both sides will also invest programming and resources specifically aimed at increasing access to the sport worldwide, with a specific focus on improving the playing experience for girls of all ages and skill levels. And existing programs, including the Nike Elite Youth Basketball League, EYBL, Junior NBA, Basketball Without Borders, BWB, and Her Time to Play will continue to be supported and expanded. While Nike has been an NBA partner since 1992, its relationship as the official uniform supplier of the league got off to an imperfect start when in the early going of the 2017-18 season, players' jerseys were ripping on the court unintentionally. LaRocca said Nike's response to the problem, a problem that arose from the supplier's desire to design lightweight jerseys to meet the players' demands, only strengthened the working relationship between the companies. In their ongoing quest to innovate, there were some unintended consequences, LaRocca said. But the thing about Nike from our perspective, as difficult as it was, made it something we could get past pretty quickly with their commitment to remedy it. And once they isolated what the issue was, it was a very quick response, and then it just didn't happen anymore. So there are things that are always going to come up that are not planned that you have to focus on remedying quickly. And Nike did that, and they demonstrated once again why they're best in class. Tanya Vizdak, the vice president of athlete sports marketing at Nike, told ESPN that the partnership is a major priority for the company. When you think about just the future of sport, this is going to be such a foundation for us, Vizdak said. The growth of the game of basketball has been massive. You saw everything around the participation and the viewership coming out of the Olympics, and the NBA is just going to be an opportunity around that 365-day consumer demand to continue to build off of that. Wilson, who announced her own signature shoe with Nike in May, the Aeon, admitted that way she wears her uniform might drive Nike up the wall, however. I feel like sometimes I'm Nike's biggest nightmare when it comes to their uniform because I will butcher it up, Wilson said with a laugh. I obviously cut a whole leg sleeve. I roll my shorts and I tuck my jersey, and I can only imagine how the Nike reps scream and pull their hair out when they see me. But I feel like that's just my personality, and that's what I like to bring to the core.